So the title of today's Shiur is On Eagle's Wings. And Mazel Tov to all our Philadelphians. I have two very dear friends who are celebrating the first victory of the Philadelphia Eagles in my lifetime. I'll put it that way. Since there were Super Bowls. Okay, since there were Super Bowls. And ironically, one of the interesting things that came out of that experience was I noticed that there was this issue of song. We've been giving a shiurim about the 10 levels of song, and song came into play here in the Super Bowl among other Jewish observances, reflections that I'll share with you. But the Eagles fans sing a song, and roughly it was translated into Hebrew by somebody and posted, and I think Haaretz picked it up and was banding it about the web, but came to my attention. And the song of the eagle that they sing is very interesting. They sing, Ufu Nisharim Ufu, fly eagle fly, right, to the victory, La Netzach, right? But we say Netzach, of course, for us has a different connotation, right? And they had this little Jewish kid singing on the internet the song of the eagle. But of course, when we think about eagles, what pasuk comes to mind to us? Right before Matan Torah, Parshas Yisro, so Hashem says to Klal Yisrael, "V'asa etchem al kanfei nisharim v'avi etchem alai." Okay, so we actually have a very unique pasuk over there regarding eagles. We're going to explore that a little bit. We'll explain what the significance of eagles is. And maybe it's a good siman for Klal Yisrael. I'm always looking for good simanim for Klal Yisrael. Right? So let's back up. This past week, there was a very extraordinary astronomical event. Do you know what it was?
Blood moon, blue moon.
There was I think we mentioned it was a super blue blood moon. Blue bloods as in royalty, right? What did it mean? There were three phenomenons that happened. Number one, a blue moon means that it's a full moon in one secular calendar month. So in other words, January had two full moons. Okay, so there was a 15th of the month at the very beginning of January, a 15th of the month at the very end of January. Of course, those 15 were important to us because one of them was Tu B'Shvat. And in fact, Tu B'Shvat exactly coincided with this super blue blood moon. So now, we once asked a question here, does God really care who wins the football game? And the answer is it depends. But one would think that on a significant football game, where millions and millions of people are tuning in, that it would be good advertising for the Rabboni Shalom to put a little message in there for all of us. No? I think they charge a pretty penny, if there are such things anymore, for an ad. And Baruch Hashem, I didn't have to sit through any of the ads being here in Israel. So wouldn't it make sense that Hashem would sort of craft some sort of message? That's a joke. Kraft was the name of the owner, that Jewish owner, that may give pause to the Jewish people, especially since Jewish people were at the very center of this incident. Did you know that? Okay. The owner of the Eagles, I found that a remarkable thing this past Shabbos. And then we're going to put all this together. Robert Kraft, who married a Jewish girl that he had met at Columbia University, was an heir to the Kraft food fortune, but built his own fortune. And he's a billionaire. He's the 500th wealthiest man in the world. Except I can say that of all the billionaires that I know, which are none, no, I know a couple, he is certainly one of the most philanthropic to the Jewish community and even to the Torah community. First of all, I found out from a young lady who came to our house as a guest for Shabbos lunch, she's here on a scholarship to learn Torah in Eretz Yisrael. How did that happen? That the Boston Rabbi in Boston, had a relationship with Robert Kraft, and he convinced him to pay 50% of any yeshiva student that wants to come to learn in Eretz Yisrael. I said, what a schus, right? So here we are, the Super Bowl invades my home because this young lady is only sitting and learning in Eretz Yisrael and coming to my Shabbos table due to the philanthropy of this gentleman, of Robert Kraft. Also, he did a lot to be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. What did he do? Last year, if you recall, he honored the boy that was killed right here in the boy from Beit Shemesh who was studying at the Ashrenu Yeshiva. And he was from the New England area, and they had a moment of silence at a football game in his honor to point out that he was a victim of terror. And he was Mekadesh Shem Shamayim that way. And he gives a number of philanthropic causes, and he promotes Israel. And he brought the NFL players to Israel and built a stadium here, not one but two, to promote, and go against the Israel boycott, those who would wish to boycott Israel. And Adrabah, to show his support in bringing all these African-American players who maybe weren't steeped in the love of the Jewish people, let's put it that way, and bringing here for a wonderful occasion. So I said, I told my friends in Philadelphia, you're up against a lot of schusim here. You're going to have to really daven. But apparently they did. And the other partner, the other person, the other team was also owned by a Jew, a fellow named Lurie, Jonathan Lurie, I believe. But it had also a Jewish general manager named Howie Roseman. Now this fellow has been suffering with this team for years and years and years. And he's the Yosef Hatzadik in there. He runs the whole operation. If you read up about him a little bit, I checked up on him, and he was the architect of this team. So what you learn from here is, first of all, the principle of Tovim Hashnayim Min Ha'echad. Two Jews will beat one Jew. In other words, on the Eagles, you had a Jewish owner and a Jewish general manager, whereas on the Boston, you only had a Jewish owner. Sorry. Tovim Hashnayim Min Ha'echad. Even Bezdin, that's how it goes. 2 versus 1 wins. So perhaps that was one connotation. But on a deeper level, what I noticed was that there was a big issue of song. They showed how how this team, the Eagles, have this song. And they sang it, and they sang it, and they turned it into a Hebrew song, as I mentioned. And it occurred to me that this was something unusual. That this is something about the issue of song, which is interesting. So I began to research. We started last time. What is really what is the Torah message about songs, and particularly how does it connect to Kanfei Nesharim? You ready? So we said Az Yashir Moshe stands for Yud Shir, and I found that explicitly in the Baal HaTurim. The Baal HaTurim says on that pasuk that this is a reference to he quotes it himself, but there's a Targum on the beginning of Shir HaShirim, which says that the world will experience 10 types of song. We had mentioned this briefly last time, but let's go over that, because there's a machloket between the Baal HaTurim and the Targum as to which 10 songs are included. Now somebody here very perspicaciously, is that a good word, said, well, one of them must be what? What's the most obvious shir in all of Tanakh? I'm talking about not in Chumash. Shir HaShirim. Is that part of it, the list? And as it turns out, we have a song of Shlomo, but not that one. And so we have to understand when the list of the 10 songs of all time, I guess the greatest hits, you might want to say, Vahavdil. And the Medrash, the Targum in Shir HaShirim says, this is it. There are 10 songs, meaning each one marks some sort of specific achievement or completion. And in fact, Rav Moshe Shapiro in his Shiurim says that the word shir, which Rashi explains in Bava Metzia, Daf Chavchei Amud Aleph, which is reference to what an animal is allowed to wear out on Shabbos. There's a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, what can an animal wear outside? It's considered his essential clothing, as it were. Just like humans can wear essential items out into the street on Shabbos without an eruv, so can a sus. A sus can go out with his share. And so to other animals. And what's the share? A circular ring that goes around their neck. And it says, V'chein kol hayotzim b'shir, and any other animal that uses this type of device to manage it and control it, they're allowed to go out with it on Shabbos. And not only that, it says, mazin alayim, if this contraption becomes tameh, you can take them right into the mikveh. You lead the horse right into the mikveh, and it becomes tahor. And then you can also sprinkle mechatas on it if it became defiled by virtue of touching a dead person that was like touching it. Then you can restore it to purity by sprinkling it with the mechatas. Very unusual mitzvah, unusual mishnah. And that's how it describes it. But it connects the idea of the share, right, with what? Mikveh and tahara. I mean, we're talking Shabbos over here. You know, this is Mishnayos Shabbos. I understand if you want to tell me that it's Yotzei B'Sher, you can wear it outside. Nimshachim B'Sher, like you can walk it. Like, you know, when you're allowed to walk a dog on Shabbos without an Erev. You're all aware of that? As long as you don't schlep it too much. You know, you walk with it, but you can't pull it by force. But you can lead an animal with his share. But then the Mishnah goes into this idea of, and there's a way to make it tahor. The rabbis are always planting within their Mishnayos in particular various interesting messages that we're supposed to pick out between the lines. Read it on a halachic level, it's halachic. Read it on a chazal level, on a drush level, certain interesting things appear. So anyway, what is going on over here? Moshe Shapiro said that there are 10 songs of all time. A song is therefore a circle. What does a shiur really mean? It means a circular item. And in fact, when you say the word sela, what you find like od yahalucha, sela is a stone. And what it means is in Tehillim, start from the beginning. It's a sign. So we find in the concept of shiur is a circular thing. Why? What does that mean that it's circular? So Moshe Shapiro maintains, he says, when you reach the end of a long process, a dream that started, from a distant hope, and you progress towards it, and finally it all comes to fruition, and it connects back to the original thought, that is what is the mechanism of shira. In other words, this is al-pi Kabbalah, but it's also al-pi machshava and just human psychology. Why do people sing? Or what would cause somebody to sing, to burst out into song? Is when they see something come to its completion and fruition and its full potential is actualized, right? When do we sing? When is our most famous time for singing? Well, in our literature we sing L'cha Dodi because it's a chasan and a kala. We have an obligation to sing in front of a chasan and a kala, right? Not Keitza merakdim lifnei chasan v'akala, l'samei chasan v'akala. And constant references throughout Chazal about song, and even I found this in reference to Ofruf, that the chassan that's called up to the Torah is not so much that he needs an aliyah, but we want to sing in his honor by calling him up and offering a zemer in his honor. Okay, so what does shiur recognize? This little baby was born, titulim, hakol. School, Tsar Gidel Bonim, all kinds of problems. Then finally, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, and then the problems of teenager, tipesh esrei. We all know what kids go through. God spare us, Hashem. And then, and then they mature a little bit past that, and they're ready for the chuppah, halavai. And this is the completion of a circle. The shiurim that we offer for a chassan and kala then represent the hashlama of a long, long road that started when they were born, or maybe even when they were just a concept. And that's the shiur. Now, based on that idea, that means that the 10 songs represent the completion of 10 unique processes that Hashem had in mind for the world. Okay? Now, let's look at that list. And then, of course, I'm suggesting that we correlate it to the 10 Tehillim that Rabbi Nachman chose. This is a tall order, okay? But we're going to start basic. We'll start with what the Baal HaTurim said, okay? Baal HaTurim said, Az Yashir is as follows. I get the right page here. Okay, here we go. Az Yashir. I can't believe I took the wrong one. Okay, Baruch Hashem stands for the 10 Shiurim. Okay, and what is the list of those 10 songs? So, oh my goodness, does anybody have a Baal HaTurim? A regular Chumash here? Hold on. A Chumash would have Baal HaTurim? Yeah, this should have. Okay, let's see it inside. And I thought I was all prepared with my fancy copies and everything. Okay. All right, here we go. So, this is what the Baal HaTurim points out on this pasuk, Yud Shir. Yashir means Yud Shir, 10 Shiurim for the history of Klal Yisrael. Okay? Yashir is Yud Shir. Okay? Sheyud Shiros Yesh. There are only 10 songs that the world will know that are unique and special and relevant to our destiny. This one is here, is the Az Yashir that Moshe did. Who knows the second one, chronologically? What was the next Shir that Klal Yisrael sang as a group? After Shirat Hayam, Shirat HaBe'er. When, in Bamidbar Chaf Aleph, when Miriam passes away, and the Be'er Miriam dries up, right? So the Jewish people no longer have water. So Hashem opens up a new bear. And unfortunately, it came at a great cost. What great cost did it come at? The life of Moshe Rabbeinu. Because that's where Moshe didn't hit the stone. He smashed it open. He cracked it open. You know, we had a Tu B'Shvat Seder. Everybody here have a Tu B'Shvat Seder? To have coconuts? Yeah. So there's only one way to open a coconut, I figured out. You smash it on your driveway. You just got to go, psh, you know. You can't find that thing that can split it. Baruch Hashem. So it split the rock. Literally split it. And, but what was that song about? It was, both of them are actually connected to Miriam, if you pay attention. The first one, Miriam also sang, and the second one was in response to the return of the water that was in the schus of Miriam. Except that without Miriam there, things didn't go very well. Comes out an interesting thing, that as Miriam dies, and part of the trio of Moshe, Miriam, and Aaron die, they all are dying. They're not individual in this sense. You understand, the death of Miriam was partially the death of Moshe as well. Not partially. It was the death sentence of Moshe Rabbeinu. Because that unit was a unit. Okay? They brought the Geula as a team. So once they started to disappear, their task was completed. So that's the second one. Now, very interesting, we know that at the very end of the Torah, Moshe sings a shir. What's the shira that Moshe sings? It is called what? Hazinu Shamayim V'Dabera, which at the end he says, Kisfuli Sashira Hazos. Now, Hazinu contains within it a nevuah towards the end days. Right? So it's a nevuah of Moshe looking forward at the end of history. And then we have Shirat Yehoshua. So again, Hazinu is Dvarim Lamed Beis. Yehoshua is Yehoshua Yud Beis. Why did Yehoshua sing? What's the great thing, great miraculous thing that happened for Yeshua upon his battling in Eretz Yisrael? What? That's true, but that's not why he sang Shira.
Jordan split?
That was before that, but that was a great miracle. He didn't sing. What's Shemesh Begivon Dome? There was a 36-hour period in which the moon and the sun were both shining against the laws of nature, as if it was suspended in time. There was an abrogation of time, so that the Jewish people could complete their conquest there in Givon. Okay? So that was the next one. And then we have Shirat Devora. Shirat Devora in the Sefer Shoftim, Parak Hay. What was the occasion over there? Why did she sing Shira? Because Sisra, who, by the way, who did in Sisra? Another woman. Yael does in Sisra. And yet, Devorah sings the Shira, but she's actually the heroine. Yael is considered even more the heroine, ironically, than Devorah, because she actually destroyed the enemy. And the Baal Torah points out that over there, the language is like Moshe, is of Yashir.
In the future.
What's that?
In the future.
Yeah. So why? So Baal Torah says an amazing thing. He says, just like the Egyptians drowned in the water, right? So too, the army of Sisera were washed away by the waters of the Kishon River. Not that I know there was anything but Nahal Kishon, right? Nahal Kishon. But this was apparently swept them away. So just like the Egyptians died with water, so too they here die with water. What does water have to do with the future? Think about that, okay? Hold on to that.
Did she sing this before the battle or after?
Afterwards. Now, of course, then we had another Shira from Sefer Shmuel. Whose Shira is that? And notice how many women are prevalent in this story so far. Miriam is connected directly to two of the Shiurim. Then you had Devorah and Yael, and now another woman in Sefer Shmuel. Chana, Shira's Chana, for the having Shmuel Hanavi. And then there's the Shira of David HaMelech. Now, which is also repeated in Shmuel Beis, Parak Chof Beis. So David in Tilim Yud Chet says as follows.
Is this 7?
No, there's 3 more left. This is 7. This is 7. We'll go over it. Lamnatseach le'eved Adonai leDavid. He identifies himself with the same language that who is called? Eved Hashem is who? Who's the only other person identified as Eved Hashem? Moshe Rabbeinu. So again, what do you see? The Shulam are connected. They're not isolated. They have shades of one another. Moshe sang Yashir, Devorah sang Yashir. Moshe was Eved Hashem, David was Eved Hashem. Because we know it goes Adam, David, Mashiach. Okay, which is, we'll get back to the fact that according to Baal Term, Adam is not part of it, but according to the Targum it is. So 1 second. It says, Ashir Diber Ladonoi es Divrei Hashira Hazos B'yom Hitzil Adonai Oso Mikaf Kol Oyevav Umiyad Shaul. Erchamcha Bechula Bechula. Hashem Tzali Musudasi Umefalti Li Suri Echsebo Magini Vekeren Yishi. Okay, so his salvation from his mortal enemies. And that's not all. Then there's the Shira of Shlomo. Now, it's not Shira Shirim. And we're going to have to answer that question, why it's not Shira Shirim. Okay? According to Targum, it might be Shira Shirim. But here's the, we attribute the 30th Tehillim to Shlomo HaMelech. Tehillim Lamed, which is what? You could guess.
The inauguration of the...
Very good. Mizmor Shir Chanukas Habayis LeDavid. So LeDavid doesn't mean that David sang it, or maybe he composed it beforehand. I don't know. But Shlomo is attributed to having articulated this shir. Arumimcha Hashem ki liutani velo simachta oivali. Right? Helita mishol nafshi chiyas miyardi bor. You know, kind of very dramatic for the Beis Hamikdash, you know? You pulled me out of the pit. I would say, hooray, hooray, it's a happy day. You know, that kind of song. Kudos to all. Thank the workers. Thank, Sidon Melech Tzur for sending a congratulations speech. No. It's a speech of escape from death, from Gehenna. Right? Ki rega ba'apo chaim b'rtzono. He started panecha. There was Hester Ponim. Mabetza bedami beriditi al shachas. Talking an awful lot about Gehenna here. Hafachta mispedi lemacholi. You transformed my hesped into something happy. Not a very joyous message. But what is joyous about it? Because the message is, now we are immortal. What did Shlomo Melech's Beis HaMikdash do? It brought the Shekhinah down to the world in the most powerful way, so that there were things going on there that were supernatural and instilling a koach of life into the world that led to a period of wealth, prosperity, health, and success for the world that we have never ever seen and never duplicated and never will until when? Mashiach. We had a taste of what it means to escape death. That's what happened when the Beis HaMikdash come. But before going ahead of ourselves. And then after Shlomo,
Was he singing about the whole process, maybe, about the life of his father, David HaMelech, and
it's very
or
possible.
Am Yisrael? What's he
Yeah.
representing there? It's not his own life. He didn't go through
It's
that.
the escape from mortality. David almost died how many times? More than a Lahavdil comic book hero. Every time, every 5 minutes, he's in mortal danger. And it's not a joke. He bounces from one situation to the other and never has any rest until the very end of his life. And even at the very end of his life, he doesn't have any rest because there's a contest for the throne. Now, David didn't have a moment without conflict. From before the time he was born, he was involved in controversy. That's Mashiach. But how it works in mysterious ways. But certainly, conquering all of that, David's victory over death, you could say. But also, it's attributed to Shlomo and not David. Why? Either he's thanking Hashem about David, because the schus of David is what opened the gates to the Beis HaMikdash. It's true, because Shlomo couldn't get it open and couldn't have the Shekhinah come down until he mentioned his father David. That's what Chazal tell us. He had to say this mizmor in honor of David in order to get the Beis HaMikdash to open its gates and have the Shekhinah enter. But it's also Shlomo's Beis HaMikdash was the completion of what David did, which is basically David conquers Amalek. David conquers Plishtin. David vanquishes the evil from the world. And who is the ultimate evil, or chisaron, is the Malach HaMavis. He literally banishes the Malach HaMavis from the world. He's above death. And in Shlomo's Beis HaMikdash, there were a lot of things that nobody could understand, such as everything moved up one notch of reality. So minerals started to act like vegetables. So there were trees of gold, as Chazal tell us. And there's several places that they bore fruit. You'd have gold trees that were having fruit. That doesn't make any sense unless we're in a completely different level of reality. And by the way, ironically, what does Shlomo put into the Beis HaMikdash? 10 menorahs. As if to say, let's finish the job. Let's get these 10 shiros done. Except that there were going to be 2 more that we needed. Okay, because Shlomo...
Why the menorah?
Menorah represents the Shekhinah. Chachmas HaTorah. And so everything, for example, when the Aron Kodesh came back through Beit Shemesh, and that's our big claim to fame, right? Mm-hmm. What happened over there that, again, things moved up a level? The cows started to sing. So just like the trees of gold were having fruit, the mineral became vegetable, the animal became medaber. Chai went up to the level of medaber, right? You have domem, tzomeach, chai, medaber. Domem, gold, is inert. Mineral goes up to the level of what? Tzomeach. Vegetation, that flourishes. Chai, the behemoths, go up to medaber. What do medaber go up to? Right? They cross over into a level that's malach-like. Malach-like. And that's only achieved through, of course, the Chachmas HaTorah, Tefillah. We have many people who were Dom Malachim, and are tzaddikim throughout history. I heard a wonderful story from my child's Shabbos booklet. Read the Shabbos stories, and it was Rabbi Assad, who was a famous Achron, Assad, and they were in Eastern Europe, and they got word that on the Seder night, the local Russia was getting his hooligans to come and ransack the town. And there was nothing they could do to stop it. So the Rav said not to worry. We're all going to have Seder in the shul. It was the first big catering event in that community. It was the first Pesach program, you know. So they were all together, and they're sitting, and they have the Seder, and they're holding their breath. Sure enough, he sent young people to the edge of the village to give a signal when he sees them approaching, and they hear them approaching, and they're drunken, stupor, and they're riding their horses and shouting, insults to the Jews and what they're going to do to them. And the rabbi is just quiet. He has his kittel on. He walks outside in front of the shul, and just as they're arriving, he blows the shofar as hard as he possibly can. And they look at him and they say, "Run!" They turn and run. They say, "The Jews have gotten the angels to fight against us." There are Jews that have had that ability to cross over to the level of Malach, where reality and life are, kind of areingemischt. They're on the edge. We spoke about people in our contemporaries in our generation, like the Baba Sali and many others, who by them, miracles were davar yom yomi. So that was the 8th. The 9th, according to the tour, is Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Now this is difficult because Chizkiyahu HaMelech, it wasn't his words as quoted in Sefer Melachim, but rather in Yeshaya Lamed Chet. Do you have a Navi here? Do you have a Navi? It'd be nice, but it's in Yeshaya Lamed Chet Pasuk Yud that Ki'ilu Yeshaya formulates the Shiur, the thanksgiving that. You see? Maybe somebody can help. Bring one down. Okay.
Which side? The next show. Rishon. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's right there. It's volume 2. Yeah, volume 2. Look for. You got it. No, we need volume 2. We all grew up on these. This was before Art Scroll, right? Okay, so you had Yirmiyahu, Perek, Lamed, Chet, Pasuk Yod. Now, this is interesting because he puts words into Chizkiyahu's mouth, as it were. The Navi Yeshaya. Oh no, you give me Yirmiyahu. I'm sorry. I need Yeshaya too. You gave me Yirmiyahu. In other words, we don't have a record. Yeah, I think it's right there at the very end. Okay, thank you. We don't have a record of a special shira that Chizkiyahu said. In fact, here's the problem. The Gemara says that if but Chizkiyahu had said a proper